Okay, so I'm working on my 2007 PT Cruiser here. We're going to be taking a look at this rear window. It's actually both windows are not rolling up or down on this back part. The front ones are working, and I've already ruled out the switch, and what I have is a known good switch, and I simply just take this off and we'll unplug this and plug my good switch in, and I just rule out very quickly the window switch itself. And I will say that a lot of times these I haven't seen going bad on the newer 2006 and up, but they did go bad on the older models a lot. Not to say they couldn't, but just what I've seen. But anyways, I've ruled out the switch, so I know the problem is going to be in the door itself. We've got something going on right now. It's just being held up here, and we got it wedged up, so we're going to go ahead and take a look in here and see what we've got going on at this point. Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is get right in here where this handle is, take our Phillips and go ahead and remove that screw. Okay, and the next thing, we've got a 10mm. We're going to come down here to where our handle is and look up in here. You can use a Torx bit as well if you don't have the 10, or if you just want to use that Torx bit, but I'm using just a 10 here, and we've got a little extension on it, and we're going to go ahead and get up in here, and these aren't very tight. So, and that's about it. Okay, so there is that one. We'll go ahead and set that aside. And then we'll get up here and get this other one. Okay, and there is that one. So we've got our 3 screws out. Now we're going to go ahead and get us something plastic and start working on getting this here popped loose. Okay, and you can use whatever you got, but I've got this little plastic wedge piece, and I'm just going to work. I'm going to find where the little pop rivets are and just real firmly start pulling on this until I can get this broken loose, and you can hear them start popping as you work your way. Now once you get enough of it loose, a lot of times you just take your hands under here and just start giving it a good yank around this area, and that's enough to get it. Okay, so we got this loose. Now we also got this little piece up here. Just give it a pull at the top, and it's just snapped in there the same way. And if that little piece pulls off, you can get that out. Just squeeze it and pull it out of there and just put it right back on where it goes. Okay, because my wedge is kind of holding this window up now, I'm going to go ahead and remove it and let this window go ahead and slide down, because I'm fixing to pull this off, and this is wedged in between here. I just want to also point out right here we've got another Phillips under there. Go ahead and get that loose before you go to yanking on this anymore. And that was just right under that one piece. We'll set that aside for I'm going to go ahead and let this window down a little bit at this point. Okay, now I'm getting ready to pull this up. I'm just going to pull up right here and just pop it right up and over. We shouldn't have too much difficulty. And then we're going to also have a rod connector here, and we just need to, well, this piece is not supposed to fall off, but it did. But anyways, we'll take right here and just give that a push down with your thumb. Swing it down like that, and then just pull that right out of there. Good firm pull. Just like that. We'll put it back in the same way. We'll just go ahead and set this aside for a minute. Okay, now pay attention when you come in here. This rod does come up above this. You want to make sure alright, so you want to make sure that goes back above there. And we got our 10 millimeter again, and we're going to go ahead and take this brace completely off. And we've got a nut here. We'll go ahead and get our brace out of the way, and then we'll move on to this down here. Alright, so there's our brace. Remember, it goes just like that. And we'll make sure to put these where we don't lose these. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start peeling some of this back. Now, a lot of times I have noticed, okay, and this is doing the same thing, this stuff gets really brittle and it wants to start breaking. Okay, and just to show you what I'm talking about, this stuff is just brittle and it's coming apart. So I'm not going to put this back on here. Now, it is like a moisture barrier. However, it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of difference. And when it's falling apart like this, it sure ain't doing you much good. So if you want to put a piece back and you have this situation, just cut you out another piece of plastic if you're worried about it, and just silicone that thing back on. I'm not going to be putting this back, so we're going to go ahead, we'll take our Phillips, and we're going to take out this one. We got 2 and 3 and then 4 right there. We're going to go ahead and take this speaker completely out, and we'll have a connection behind this that we'll need to get loose. Okay, so this housing is loose. I said pay attention to how things go. We know this goes back up towards this wire here. So this is completely loose now. We'll go ahead and pull it down here. We got one connector. We're going to give that a push down. You can see that tab. Push it just like that. And just give it a tug off. So we'll just set that aside, and now we can get in here and see what's going on. And it looks like one thing, we're getting a little bit of water in here, but that's probably due to the window not sealing. But somebody's actually removed the motor here already, it's looking like. So we see got a motor thrown down in here. Well, somebody has definitely worked on this at one time. Now, I don't know if this is going to be any good or not, but we're going to get us a soldering tool. I mean, these motors are kind of pricey for these PT Cruisers, so we're going to take and clean this thing up a bit and get some power to it and just see what it's going to do. I'm sure all this water in it is not doing it any favors. So we're going to go ahead now, and I'm going to get it dried out a bit and just see if we can bring this thing back to life. I'm going to go ahead and peel the remainder. And you run into this stuff if somebody has worked on something, and more especially if they didn't know what they were doing to begin with. You don't know if you've got a problem or some bit of persuasion to get these to pop out of their place. Now, we've also got 2 more 10 millimeters that are holding our window here, and we can see one right here. Now, what we have to do is kind of lift this window. You don't have to take this completely out, just loosen this up. Okay, and you see that clamp is loosened off. Now, we got another one over here on this side, so we're going to have to lift this thing up so we can get to that one. So we're just going to get under here and and see about giving this thing a push up. And then we'll go ahead and get to that one right there and loosen it off. Okay, with that loosened, I can push this window up. And I'm just going to keep a hand on it. Or I'm going to get my wedge back in here one. And we're definitely going to keep a hand on it. You want to be cautious. This thing can slide down and hurt you if you ain't careful. So we're going to get a hand on that. Now this right here, all we have to do at this point is just push this out, and then we can work this whole assembly out of here, and it will come out. There's a lot of room in this panel right here, and then we just pull it up and out of there just like that. So this is our regulator. You can see how it's got the little rubbery clips on this side. See where the motor bolts in right there. We'll have to also see about finding the screws or hunt down some more screws, because those 3 screws go right there to bolt that motor on. So, and then it just rides up and down on this track right here. And there's a couple of little plastic gears that go in behind this. You can't really see them, but they're in behind that, and they move this whole contraption up and down. And this is a little bump stop down on the ends. You can see how this all goes together. So this, goes bad. The wires from moving up and down get brittle and they break and they snap off. I've seen a lot of wires, more than anything else. If you have an 06 and up, these wires are notorious for breaking. So you think you got a motor, and it's actually the wire. So that's how it's made. It's a pretty simple design, but these are kind of pricey. So if you can fix it, then you're better off doing that. And you can see on the motor here where this wire, the black wire, come undone from the solder here, and this out here actually looks okay. Usually I see these wires breaking here. We may have some problems there too, because it looks a little bit like it's starting to break, so we may have to fix that as well. But anyways, we don't even know if this is going to be any good, so we're going to see what we can do with it, if anything, and see about hunting down these screws here. Okay, so I went ahead and put all of my bolts and everything back where they go, because I'm going to have to leave this alone for a few days, and you definitely want to put everything where it goes, all the little screws and everything, so you don't get confused when you go to putting this back together, because it's going to be a few days. I'm going to take and go ahead and look at this other side, but just to show you, because it may have been able to be fixed, but somebody had took it off and it laid down in the bottom of that door, and the problem was that it leaked water in there and it just filled this thing up, and it's like rusted and seized. You should be able to pull this out easily. Somebody had worked on it, and now this thing is just trash. I'm gonna have to get another from a salvage yard. I can get this whole assembly, which I'll keep this for spares. You never know when you might need something like this, because really all I need is the motor. If I could put the motor back in there, if this motor was good, I can take and put it in here. It goes in just like that, and it bolts down with those 3 screws. And I was able to find one of them. They're like little Torx head screws, but you just torque that down, and I would be able to probably fix this. So I put everything back, put all my little screws and nuts back, and I'm just going to have to get another one of these. So this is just going to have to be put aside for now. We're going to go ahead and look at the other window. We know what's going on with that one, so we're going to go ahead and look at this other side and see what's going on, if it can be fixed. Same thing, we're just going to start over here. We've got a screw in there, and then we've got the the tins underneath here. We're going to go ahead and get those out. I think we'll go ahead and pop this. You can see you got a gap up here. Just pop that loose. Go ahead and take that so you don't make the mistake of, okay, this is really stuck on here. I may have to get something else so I don't break this plastic piece. Sometimes those really hang up. Okay, so I got it with a screwdriver. We're going to go ahead and take this Phillips. Like I said, it's important to take, if you can, if you're not going to be putting this back, to either take pictures or put the screws back where they go, because a lot of these screws look alike and you just can't tell what's what and you'll get them mixed up. It's easy to get stuff mixed up, so you want to make sure you get the right screws back where they go. So we're going to go ahead and just get those 10 millimeters out of there, and then we'll pop this door panel off just like we did that other one. Okay, now we're back in here. We'll go ahead and get these two 10 millimeters off, and we'll get down on our speaker, and just like we did the other side, just do the same thing over here. Okay, so the speaker's out. We're just getting ready to peel this goopy stuff off here, and probably do just like I did the other side, because it just falls apart. It's just brittle and no good at this point. Okay, well, over on this side, everything appears from the first side here appears to be intact. So it could very well be that the motor has gone out on this one, because everything's intact. It doesn't appear that it's been tampered with. You can see that when you actually have this motor up into place, it's very easy to get to these two 10 millimeters that are holding, and this is the ideal position to remove it, everything. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of the same thing. The other side, I'm going to take the two 10 millimeters loose. To loosen the window, we'll get a hand on it, and then we'll get out this one and this one, and we'll go ahead and disconnect. You got a safety lock right there. You got to push that up on that wire. It's very hard. You got to pull that up or push it up from the bottom and get that safety lock before we can disconnect that. Okay, you get that, just go ahead and squeeze these and push this through. You just squeeze that and get one side at a time, or you can get some pliers on them and get both. And there's all there is to that, and you'll have this junk around it. You have to squeeze right here. You can't really see that tab. Just squeeze it right there and it will pull off, but it's just covered up with this foam stuff. Okay, and there it is, loose. You can see about how far you have to push that safety lock back. Let me peel this back to show you. This is this tab here, so it's got this foam stuff on it. But when you peel that back, you can kind of see it there a little bit. You just mash down on that. But we got that loose. We're going to go ahead, like I said, and get these loosened, this one loosened, and we'll pop this thing out of here and take a look at it. Okay, so we've got those loosened up, and I'm getting ready to pop it out. I've got one of these suction cups. If you don't have one of these, they're really handy. We're going to put it as low as we can, push it tight, and that will hold that window in place while we're messing with all this. So we got the window loose. We just got to pop these out and pop this up here out. And we'll just have to give that a little push there. Okay, so we just pop that out of there, and that's what that looks like when it's actually all intact. Now this side faces the front, and probably the cheapest place you can find these is on eBay. You can get an OEM, a used one, on eBay, and I have gotten stuff, like I said, they have a money back guarantee, so that's going to be your cheapest bet. Right now I'm hoping that this one is going to be able to be fixed, but we're going to find out, because the motor's not working at this point. we're going to see what's going on with it and make sure maybe we can make sure that we've got, don't have any breaks in the wires. We won't be able to know until we take that motor off. But I'm going to look at these right here and see what the power is doing to it first. Okay, we did have 12 volts coming to the power socket there, which I figured that was good. So we're taking a little Allen. We're going to take these 3 screws holding this motor on. So I'm just getting this first one, and then we'll just get that one there. This one here on the bottom, we'll take this out here and look at it and see how the solders look on the wires. I don't see any breaks in the wires here at all. Okay, and here we are just wiggling this motor out, and this one's coming out pretty easy. At least I don't see any damage to it. It still has grease around the screwed end there. And as far as these, the solders look good, so the motor could be in fact burned up because I don't see any breaks. And we're getting power. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't be working or doing something. Okay, so all I've done is just clipped a couple of cables to this little connector right here, and I've got a probe on that and a probe on this. I'm just checking for continuity, and if I get this up here where it's connected, I should be able to check this here. Okay, we'll try it again. I didn't have a good connection with that red when it was falling, but I was getting it to beep, so I know I've got a good, I don't have any breaks in this wire here, so I'm going to take a look at this motor next. Okay, so I just took my soldering iron and I heated those up and was able to pull those wires back out there. And I'm just taking my screwdriver and pulling this up gently. And so we'll just make sure to get it back in the same way. The little blue side points towards the single hole, away from the double. So we're just pulling this up and out of here. I'm just going to take a look at it, this whole mechanism. We can see how this is kind of made, and we got our motor down in there. I'm going to try to pull this whole thing out. Okay, and here it is with it pulled entirely out of there. So it's like magnets, lots of coils of copper wire. Not quite sure what's going on with this. But is not working anymore, so something got messed up somewhere, and looks like we're not going to have any choice but to get some more. You can see where these wires come down here and connect, how the power finds its way down into the coil there. So I don't know, I was hoping to see something broken or something unsoldered, but I'm not seeing anything. So really I'm just going to have to get a couple of replacements from the salvage yard. Tried to apply power to it, it's just not working, not wanting to do anything, so we're just going to have to get some replacements because I'm outside my expertise on this as far as anything else I know to do to it. So we will go ahead and get some replacements and work on putting them back into the car. Okay, we're back here today working on these windows. We went to the salvage yard and we found some the motors with the regulators for this PT Cruiser. So 2006 through 2010, and they're different from the passenger. The drivers, as you can tell, the motor is going to be on the side where it's hooking into the wire. So this is the passenger and this is the driver side right here. So it's complete complete motor and regulator, so we don't have to mess with this. I got these for $18 a piece, which is pretty good for these. and as long as they work fine. There's my old ones just sitting over here. So I'm just getting ready to go ahead. The wires look good on them and everything. Getting ready to go ahead and just start putting these back into the car, and I'll just show the process of doing that. Okay, and I've just got a little suction clamp on here holding this window for now. I did have a little wedge in there before, but these work really good. They're handy to have. We just got this set in here, and this complete unit is really easy to install. It's just plug and go. So you'll notice I've got all the hardware and the screws and stuff from the other day. We put them right back where they went, because you know, if it's going to be a few days before you come back and visit something, you don't want to get mixed up on where stuff goes. So we just left everything. Screws for the speaker, the screws where they went up here, and all those little pieces, we just left them into place. So we'll go ahead and get all these out and get ready to put our motor and regulator in here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and grab this. Like I said, we'll go ahead, and we've got these nuts on here too. Put them on there so we're not losing them. We'll go ahead and take these off and get those set aside. These are already loosened back from when I removed them from the car, the salvage yard. And we're just going to try to go in here like so. So you actually got a lot of room in this thing to get this in place. Now we're just going to we got a hole right here, you can see, and then we got the one right there, and we just have to line up our studs coming through this actuator. We're going to slide it on. We're going to look through these little windows here, make sure our clips slide into place, and I'm trying to get this with one hand here, and then we're going to slide it on up, but basically just watching the window, and then get that first little studded bolt going through this hole here. And I'm going to have to put the camera down a minute. Okay, so I've got it into place, and I'm just working this through, and I'm getting this one right here through. And once we get it pushed up, we'll just push the whole window up, and then we'll just push those through and get our 10 millimeters on that. Okay, and the nice thing about this design, I mean, once you get this and this through, and we take and we put our 10 millimeters on, it's lined up. It lines itself up with the window, and there's no elaborate setup or anything. And then we just snug these. We're going to snug this and this down, and then we'll get in here with our 10 and snug this down. And I usually just do this with my 1/4-inch drive screwdriver, and I hand tighten these because it's going on the glass. We don't want to take a chance of busting it, so we want to be cautious when we tighten those down. Don't get too carried away, but we'll snug these and these down, and then we'll get in here and snug those. Okay, so now I'm just using this here to tighten the 10 millimeters that are holding to the glass here. And I just snug them down by hand, and then that's good enough, because you can get too carried away with it and break that glass. So just to be on the safe side, I like to do this by hand and not use any type of ratchet. I don't even use my little micro ratchets, so I don't want it to okay, so we got both of those. That's snug enough, plenty snug enough. And now all we've got left is this, and we're going to go ahead and connect that. Just push that into place, flip it over, like that. And before I go ahead and clip it in to this like this, I'm going to test this out and just make sure it's working. I should be able to get over here on my switch right back here and test it out. Okay, so we do have this working, and just to show you, if you have any problems with your adjustment when you're raising this up and down, you've got a 10 millimeter here and here for this track if somebody has gotten it out of whack, and you got one here and here. Now don't move these unless your window is out of whack. We're going to go ahead and secure this right here. Just pushes and locks right there into place. And okay, so there we have that, and we're going to go ahead and test this over here. Make sure that it's not locked up front. If you up on your front you've got a lock that has to be flipped up, or in your main window switches, or you won't be able to operate it back here. But we're going to go ahead and operate it back here, and just to show you that we do have it working. And it's just really nice when things work. Like I said, it's very simple. This these units as a whole, very simple to put in and get this replaced. So we got this latch back on here, so we're going to go ahead at this point and work on getting some other things back together. Okay, so we got our speaker in hand here. We're going to line it back up here and get the connector right here. Let's go ahead and get that pushed into place until it snaps. And then we've got you see these nubs sticking off of it here, and they go into these holes around here. We can get it oriented the right way. Okay, one second. Okay, so the yellow sticker goes up top, and these line up into these holes here, and in that little area for going around that wire. And we'll just get our little screws, and for whatever reason this little rounded one was right here on this, and then the little these with the different head were around these other spots. There's 3 of these. Don't know what the difference it makes, but that's how it was. So I just try to put things back in the manner that they were. So we're going to go ahead and just fasten this speaker down here now with the Phillips. Okay, so now we've got our brace that goes on here. It just slips over that stud right there, and then we bolt it in right there. These should be kind of angling down, and we're just going to go ahead and secure this with our 10 millimeter. And we'll get on the nut over here and secure it. Okay, I'm just taking these out and setting them aside. Okay, so we got this wire, make sure that's up above that bracket. We got our door panel here. We just got that blue that we got to get that to pop into, and it's black on the other side for whatever reason, but we just pop that in to that hole while holding this, and then we just snap that on there, and then we can go ahead and fit that through this hole right here, and then this seal just kind of slides down in where that window is there and just kind of goes into place. So you have to just move your lock till it lines up with that hole there. Okay, and when you get it on there, it should fit nice and tight up against your window like that, and you'll know you got it on. This hole should line up. We'll go ahead and get that screw in. and it should look like that. We'll go ahead and get that one started. And we got one more, and it goes right in here. We'll go ahead and get that one started as well. Now we'll just need to snug that down. Then we've got our tins, and we need to get those back up under here and get those started here. So just get yourself a long extension. Just get those up in there. And then we'll go ahead and get that last one over on this side. Okay, and I almost forgot, make sure that these just kind of went into place, but make sure that your snaps are going into place before you go to tightening these down, and you should feel them lock. And when you get this up here lined up, your snaps should go into place. You should be able to just pop them down if they're not broken. So we're just going to snug down this one, and then these two here. Okay, so lastly we got this little piece, and it just snaps right into these slots right here. Just give it a little push. And again, we're going to test this just to make sure everything's still working right, and then we'll move over to our other side and get the passenger side put together. This one here is all finished up. Okay, so we're ready to go in with this passenger side, and in case you missed anything on the other side, now these have like a couple of plastic gears in here. I've talked about it in another video. If this ever gets bent and off track, it's pretty much all over. I'm trying to keep this in track. You'll have to get another one of these. That's why it's sometimes a good idea, if you're having trouble, just get the whole thing and don't even mess with the motor. So, because I've run into that where I'd got another motor and somebody had worked on or something and got this off track and it was out of whack, and I could never get it to stay on anymore. So we're going to go ahead and slide this one back in and do just like we did with the other one. We'll just work it on to our window loosely and get our first bolt on there. And I'm going to need my other hand at this point. Okay, so we just had to wiggle those around to get them to line up with our holes. And it was just easy to get the bottom first this time. And we'll do just like we did with the other one. We'll just snug these down. We'll take this piece right here and hand tighten these. And we may have some adjustment issues if this is not quite right. Sometimes I like to lower it, get a feel for it, and if it needs some adjustment, I'll loosen these off and readjust it. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get our plug here, and hopefully this side is going to work. Sometimes you can have weird issues and you just never know what you're going to run into. So we're going to go ahead and get the key on, and we'll test it right over here like we did the other one. Okay, and this one over here is in fact working. I'm going to get it down here and just we'll check it a few times and make sure that everything feels like it's going up nice and straight. But so far it's working good. I feel like there's a little bit off right there, so I think I'm going to get it down here and slightly adjust these clamps here. I'm just going to loosen them off and adjust a little bit, but it is working. And like I said, this motor over here looked good. It was really weird, and I even took it apart and it looked good, but it was in fact burned out. So anyways, and I'm taking some of this lithium grease, and I'm putting a little bit here on my this part here where the gears run down on this plastic piece, and I'm also putting some down in this strip where the window goes, just to get everything lubricated, so we're off to a good start at least. Okay, now all I did was loosen these two off, and it kind of, the window with it halfway down like this, the window kind of adjusted itself in this track a little better, and now it's raising up, and it was shutting before, but it's not trying to tilt or do anything funky on me now, and it's working nicely. So we know that's working. We'll go ahead and push our safety lock down, and then we'll go ahead and just clip this, just push that back into there and get that clipped. Alright, so you see me what I did on the other one. Basically, we're just going to get our speaker back into place here, and then we'll get our brace up here next. We'll go ahead and get our speaker connected here. Okay, remember the sticker goes up, and then that little spot goes over where the wire is. And then of course these little pins will line up with those holes, and it'll line itself right up once you get those into place. So there we have that. We just get our screws, 4 screws back in there now. Okay, and someone may point out that you don't have to remove the speaker to get access to get in here. It does give you more room to come through here, and to me it's better to have it out of the way. However, the main reason that I removed it was because of this plastic piece that was on here, and it was easier just to pull it off. Now if you want, I'm not going to do it on mine, if you want you can take a piece of plastic and simply silicone that back on around here, just cut you out another piece. But like I said, these were crumbling in my hands as I was taking them off, so it was no good to put that back, but I'm not going to worry with that at this point. So we've got our speaker in. We're going to go ahead and get this brace over here and get it into place. Yeah, so it just goes up here. We'll just go ahead and bolt that down. Okay, and now with that brace into place, we're ready to go ahead and get our panel. And like I said, you got all these little plastic dowels that will go in, and they pretty much will line themselves up, I've found. The main thing, the first thing we got to do is get that bar slid into our black connector there, and then lock that down. Okay, so we got that locked, and we're ready to go ahead and get our door lock over here. Turn that up here so we can get it lined up. We'll line that up with that and just slip it back into this window like we did the other one. Okay, and with that in place, this should line up, and these should pretty much go into place if they're close. So you may have to wiggle a few around, but these are all going in pretty good. Just give it a little hit with your hand. Okay, so now we're just going to go ahead and get our screw right up there, and the one right there in that door panel. Okay, now I've just got my 10 millimeters. We're going to go ahead and get them into place under the handle here. Okay, we just went ahead and snug those down with a ratchet. Now we're ready to get on our last piece up here. And just pops right into place. Okay, and there we have it. We're all finished up, and we got both of these working, which is nice. And so we can come back here or switch, and we are, and it's just nice when things work. These on this side were the only ones not working, the back ones, And the switch was broken too, so they're all fixed up. Okay, so that's going to do it for this video. I hope you found it helpful, and if you did, please give it a like. I just hope it gives a little insight on how these motor and everything works, the regulators on these. So I hope it makes a little bit of sense. Like I said, I had one motor that apparently somebody tried to work on. It was completely gone and gotten water all in it. The other one looked okay but was burned up, and I couldn't even figure out why it wasn't working. But we got some new motor and regulators and got them fixed up and got them working again. You know, got them from the salvage yard, and I'm happy with it. So anyways, if you found it helpful, please give it a like. I invite you to check out some other videos. I've got other videos on these PT Cruisers. And as always, I thank you for watching.